Hello my fabulous dream chasers and welcome back to my channel. I know it has been a while since I have done a video where I just sit down and talk to you guys or play a game, but I am back again with reading Nancy Drew, The Secret of the Old Clock. A couple things I want to say before I start reading. It has been kind of hectic lately. My boyfriend moved in a couple months ago, and things have been like really getting crowded and stuff in one bedroom. I'm trying to sort things out and everything. It's just really hard. And I also have a job interview in the morning, so that's going well. Excuse me. And also, before I start, I hope you all are doing well during this pandemic and with the coronavirus and everything. I know it's stressful times, but we'll get through it, I promise. Alright. So, tonight I am doing chapters 14 and 15 of Nancy Drew, The Secret of the Old Clock. And if you don't remember what happened in chapters 1 through 13, I recommend you go watch the videos for that first. I actually have a playlist called Reading Books! Sorry, that's just dirt bikes and stuff. We have a trail near our house. So if you haven't watched those yet, then I recommend that you watch those first, because then you will be catched up. Alright. Sorry, caught up. I am so bad with words today. Alright. A tense chase. "Which way is Melbourne?" Nancy asked the caretaker when they reached the highway. "Down there," he pointed. "That's the direction the thieves took," Nancy told him, and noting the dust and tire marks, but which revealed the van's exit onto the highway. Wait, I feel like I've read this one to you guys already. Give me a second. Let's check YouTube. And excuse me. Reading books, alright. I did already read this chapter. Alright. Give me 1 second. Alright, chapter 15. I apologize for that. It's, like I said, it's been a while. Alright, chapter 15. Nancy's risky undertaking. "I must notify the police at once," Nancy told herself as she recognized the 3 thieves. Turning away from the window, she crept noisily from the porch. She was about to make a dash for her car when a sudden thought occurred to her. If the gang have parked their van in the barn, now's my chance to look for the Crowley clock. I'm sure those men will be eating for a while, or they may even be staying overnight. Acting on the impulse, Nancy sprinted to her car. Hastily, she snatched a flashlight from the compartment, since it was now dark outside. She made her way cautiously to the rear of the inn. Reaching the barn, she tried the closed doors, her heart pounding. They had not been locked. As she slid back one of the doors, it squeaked in an alarming fashion. Anxiously, Nancy glanced toward the inn, but so far as she could tell, her actions were unobserved. There was no one in sight. Focusing her flashlight, she peered hopefully into the dark interior. A cry of satisfaction escaped from her lips. In front of her stood the moving van. "What luck!" she exclaimed, snapping off her light. With a last cautious glance in the direction of the inn, she hastily stepped inside and closed the barn door. With it shut, the interior of the barn was pitch black. Nancy switched on her flashlight again and played it over the moving van. It means she just flashed it. She shined it onto the van. She saw that its rear doors were closed. Securing a firm grip on the handle, she gave it a quick turn. To her dismay, the door did not open. The thieves had locked the van. "Oh dear, now what shall I do?" she wondered frantically. "I'll never be able to break the lock." Desperately, Nancy glanced about. She dared not remain many minutes in the barn, lest the thieves return and find her there. But she had But she had to find out whether the Crowley clock was in the van. Perhaps the keys were left in the ignition, Nancy thought hopefully. She rushed to the front of the van and clambered into the driver's seat. Basically means she just climbed in. But there were no keys hanging from the ignition lock. Nancy's mind worked frantically. She must find the keys. Perhaps the men had not taken them into the inn, but had concealed them in the truck. Suddenly she remembered that people sometimes hide automobile keys under the floor mat. It was barely possible that the thieves had done this. Hastily, she pulled up a corner of the mat. Her flashlight revealed a small ring of keys. "Luck was with me this time," she murmured, and quickly snatching up the ring, she ran back to the rear of the van. After trying several of the keys, she at last found one which fitted the lock. Turning it, she jerked open the door. Nancy flashed her light about inside the truck. To her joy, she recognized the van's contents as the furniture stolen from the Topham cottage. "What will I do if the clock is on the bottom of the load?" Nancy wondered as she surveyed the pile of furniture. "I'll never find it." Dexterously, she swung herself up into the truck and flashed the light slowly about on chairs, tables, rugs, and boxes. There was no sign of the Crowley clock. Then a beam rested for a moment on an object in a far corner. With a low cry of delight, Nancy saw that her search had been rewarded. Protected by a blanket, an old-fashioned mantel clock rested on top of a table in the very front of the van. The young sleuth scrambled over the pieces of furniture as she tried to reach the clock. Her dress caught on something sharp and tore. Finally, she arrived within arm's reach of the blanket. She grasped it and carefully pulled the clock toward her. One glance at the timepiece assured her that it fitted the description Abby Rowan had given her. It had a square face, and the top was ornamented with a crescent. "The Crowley clock at last," Nancy whispered almost unbelievingly. But as she stood staring at it, her keen ears detected the sound of voices. The thieves! They were back. "I'll be caught," flashed through her mind, "and I won't be able to escape a second time." Clutching the blanket and the clock tightly in her arms, Nancy scrambled over the piled-up furniture, as she struggled to get out of the truck before it was too late. Reaching the door, she leaped lightly to the floor. She could now hear heavy footsteps coming closer and closer. Excuse me. Nancy shut the truck doors as quickly as possible and searched wildly for the keys. "Oh, what did I do with them?" she thought frantically. She saw that they had fallen to the floor and snatched them up. Hurriedly inserting the correct key in the lock, she secured the doors. But as Nancy wheeled about, she heard men's angry voices directly outside. Already, someone was starting to slide back the barn door. "Oh, what shall I do?" Nancy thought in despair. "I'm cornered." She realized instantly that she could not hope to run to the front of the car and place the keys under the mat where she had found them. "I'll just put them on the floor," she decided quickly. "Maybe the men will think they dropped them." Then, glancing frantically about for a hiding place, Nancy saw an empty grain bin. Running to it, still holding the clock, she climbed inside and dropped the blanket over her head just as one of the barn doors slid open. One of the men was speaking loudly. Nancy recognized the voice instantly. It belonged to Sid, the ringleader of the thieves. "You had enough to eat," he growled. "We're going to get out of here before we have the cops come on our heads." He climbed into the cab and turned on the headlights. Nancy held her breath. Would her hiding place be discovered? But the men apparently did not even look toward the bin. In a moment, Sid cried out, "What did you do with those keys? Thought you put 'em under the floor mat." "I did." "Well, they ain't here." "Honest, boss, Then come and find 'em, and don't be all night about it either." "All right, get out of the way and give me a chance." As Jake went to the truck and began a careful search for the keys, Nancy listened fearfully from her hiding place. "Say, if you've lost 'em," the leader did not finish the threat, for at that moment the third man announced, "Here they are on the floor. You must have thought you'd put 'em in your pocket, Jake, and dropped 'em instead." "I didn't," the other retorted. The thieves were obviously in a quarrelsome mood. Just then the leader interposed. "Cut out the yakking. We ain't got no time for a fight unless we want to land behind bars. And if we do, it'll be your fault, Sid Sachs. You left that girl to starve." "Shut up," the leader snarled. After a few more angry words, the three thieves climbed into the front seat, and in a moment the engine started. In relief, Nancy heard the men go. The moment they were a safe distance from the barn, she climbed out of the bin. Nancy watched long enough to make certain that the van had taken the road to Garwin. Then, snatching up her flashlight and clutching the precious clock in her arms, she turned and ran. "I'd better cut through the woods," she decided. As Nancy darted among the trees, she cast an anxious glance over her shoulder, but to her intense relief, she saw that she was not being followed. There seemed to be no one in the vicinity of the Black Horse Inn. In the computer game, it's called the Lilac Inn. "I had a narrow escape that time," the young sleuth told herself as she ran. "I hate to think what might have happened if I had been discovered." She clutched the mantel clock more tightly in her arms. "But it was worth the risk I took. I found the clock. It may be the secret of Josiah Crowley's will." Reaching the car, Nancy sprang inside. She took the key from her pocket and inserted it in the ignition lock. "I'll notify the police as fast as I can," she decided. "Perhaps the state troopers can catch those men before they dispose of the furniture." Then, just as Nancy was about to start the motor, her glance fell upon the Crowley clock, which she had placed on the seat beside her. Did it contain old Josiah's mysterious notebook, as she suspected? "Oh, I must find out." She got her flashlight. Since the clock was too unwieldy to open inside the car, she stepped out and laid it on the ground. She unfastened the glass door and ran her hand around the walls. There was nothing inside. She tried the back. Only the mechanism of the timepiece was there. "Gone," Nancy groaned. "Oh dear, has my luck run out?" Could it be, she wondered, that the Tophams had discovered the notebook only to destroy it? Nancy discarded this thought as quickly as it came to mind, for she recalled the conversation she had overheard between Ada and Isabel. No, the Tophams were as ignorant as herself concerning the location of a later will. It was more likely that Abby Rowan had been confused in her story. After all, she had not declared that the notebook would be found inside the clock. Nancy herself had made the deduction. I was almost certain I'd find the notebook, she murmured in disappointment. But a moment later she took heart again. It must be here somewhere, she told herself. Turning the clock upside down, Nancy gave it a hard shake. Something inside moved. Hopefully, she repeated the action. Unless I'm wrong, Nancy thought excitedly. There's something inside this clock besides the works. She examined it more closely. An extra piece of cardboard back of the face. And something in between the two. The notebook, maybe. After a vain attempt to remove the heavy cardboard face with her fingers, Nancy took a small screwdriver from the glove compartment. With the tool it required but an instant to remove the two hands of the clock and jerk off the face. As the cardboard fell to the floor, Nancy peered inside and gave a low cry of joy. There, at one side of the clock, attached to the hook in the top, dangled a tiny dark blue notebook. Hi, honey. Oh, thank you. You got me Skittles. Oh, come on. You don't want to be in the video. No. Okay. I still have another chapter to read.
Okay.
Okay. So what are you going to do?
Stand right here.
You got to stand there?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to sit down?
No.
On the floor?
No.
No? Okay. Okay. Wait, no, I got an idea what you can do. You can fold your laundry.
That's supposed to be your job.
Huh?
That's your job as a woman.
That is not my job.
Yeah.
You fold
home-
your own laundry. This is not the 1920s.
No, I come home from work. You're supposed to fold my laundry for me. That's how it works.
That's not how it works.
That's how it works.
If you guys think that's how it works, leave it in the comments. But that is not how it works.
How it works. The man works and the woman does the housework. Hence why she got the nickname dishwasher.
Since when does a woman have the nickname dishwasher?
Since before time began.
No.
Yeah.
I think you're thinking of like chambermaid or something.
Nope. No, 20th century chain, whatever the fuck you just said, is dishwasher.
Chambermaid.
Same thing. Same fucking thing.
Okay, so. Whoa! Whoa! You're in the video anyway. Alright, let's get to chapter 16. The capture. Eagerly, Nancy removed the little notebook from the hook. By holding the book directly under the beam of her flashlight, she could make out the words on the cover. Property of Josiah Crowley. I've found it at last, she thought excitedly. Quickly turning the first few pages, she saw that they were yellowed with age. The writing was fine and cramped, and the ink had faded. The pages were crowded with business notations, and it was difficult to make out the words. Nancy was thrilled, for she was positive that the notebook would disclose what Josiah Crowley had done with his last will. Yet she realized that she could not hope to read through the book without a considerable loss of precious time. She must not delay another instant in reporting to the police. I'll read the notebook later, she decided, and tucked it into her pocket. Then she put the clock together. Hurriedly laying the timepiece back on the car seat, Nancy covered it with her coat and slid behind the wheel. Starting the engine, she swung the convertible onto the highway. Nancy cast an anxious glance in the direction the thieves had taken and watched for side roads down which the men might turn to avoid the main highway. Perhaps I'd better phone the police station from the first service station. No. Perhaps I'd better phone the state police from the first service station or store I come to. There we go. Then suddenly she noticed a sign. Alternate route to Garwin. Main road under repair. Reaching the intersection, she stopped to see if the familiar tire marks of the van indicated it had turned onto this dirt road. It had. Now what shall I do? As Nancy debated, she saw a car coming toward her. Excuse me. Her hopes soared. She could not be mistaken. It was a police prowl car with a red revolving roof light. Are you eating my Skittles?
I'm sorting them.
Oh, okay.
And then eating them.
It's because I don't like the orange and yellow ones. Okay. No swearing in my
I
videos.
just did. You couldn't hear me anyway. I can scream it if you want. And Grandma will hear me.
I'd rather you not. Okay. Instantly, Nancy grabbed her own flashlight and jumped from her car. Standing at the side of the road, she waved her light, and in a few minutes the police sedan stopped. "I'm Nancy Drew," she said hurriedly to the two men inside. "Are you looking for the furniture thieves in the van?" "Yes, we are. You're the girl who reported them?" Nancy nodded, then pointed down the side road. "I think those are their tire marks. The men were at the Black Horse Inn, but left." "You can identify them?" the driver asked. "Oh, yes." "Then please follow us. I'll radio for a car to approach the thieves' van from the other end of the road." The police car sped down the bad road to Garwin, with Nancy following closely behind. They rode for several miles. "Oh dear," thought Nancy. "I must have been wrong. We should have overtaken the van by this time." After 10 minutes passed, then unexpectedly she caught a glimpse of a red tail light on the road far ahead. "It must be the van," Nancy told herself hopefully. "The light doesn't appear to be moving fast enough for an automobile." Evidently, the police were of the same opinion, for at that moment their car slowed down. Nancy figured they would not stop the van until they saw the other police car arriving from the opposite direction. A few moments later, she could see headlights in a distance. The squad car in front of Nancy now sped ahead and pulled up alongside the van. "Pull over," one of the officers shouted to the man in the cab. Instead of doing so, the van put on a burst of speed. But in order to avoid smashing into the oncoming squad car, the driver pulled too far to the right. The van swerved sharply. Its two right wheels went off into a deep ditch, and the vehicle toppled over. In an instant, the officers were out of the car and had the fugitives covered. By this time, Nancy, who had stopped her car at the side of the road, came running up. One of the officers turned to her and asked, "Can you identify these men?" As a light was flashed upon each of the thieves in turn, Nancy nodded. "This one is Sid, who locked me in the closet," she declared, pointing to the leader. "The others are Jake and Parky." The prisoners stared in complete disbelief. They were astounded to see Nancy Drew standing there. When it dawned on Sid that she evidently was responsible for their entire capture, he started to say something, then changed his mind and remained silent. The prisoners were quickly identified from licenses and other papers as wanted criminals. One of the other officers opened the rear of the van and asked Nancy if she could identify the stolen furniture. "Some of it," she replied. "That desk was taken from the room in which I was locked in the closet." "Good enough," said the trooper. "These men will get long sentences for this. They'll be held on several charges. Are you willing to go with us and prefer charges against them?" "Yes, if it's necessary," Nancy promised reluctantly. "But I don't live in this county, and I'm eager to get home right away." "Don't you have enough evidence against them?" "I think they're the same men who stole several silver heirlooms from the Turner sisters." Sid and his companions winced, but did not speak. "I see," said the trooper. "Well, I guess there's no need for you to go to headquarters now," the officer admitted. "I'll take your address, and if your testimony should be required, I'll get in touch with you." Nancy showed her driver's license as identification. The policeman glanced at her with new interest. Taking her aside, she said, "So you're the daughter of Carson Drew. I see you're following in his footsteps. Starting rather young, aren't you?" Nancy laughed. "It was only by accident that I arrived at the Topham bungalow at the critical moment," she protested modestly. "Not many girls would have used their wits the way you did," the officer observed. "Unless I'm mistaken, these fellows are old hands at this game. They're no doubt the men who have been stealing various things from around Moon Lake for a number of seasons." Moon Lake is in game number 7, Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake. "The residents will be mighty grateful for what you've done. And that Mrs. Topham you spoke of, she ought to give you a liberal reward for saving her household goods." Nancy shook her head. "I don't want a reward. I really don't." "Just the same, you've earned one," insisted the officer, who said his name was Cohen. "If you'd like, I'll tell my chief the whole story, and he'll take the matter up with Mrs. Topham." "You don't know her," Nancy remarked, "and I do. She'd never offer a reward. Even if she did, I wouldn't accept it." After a slight pause, she added, "In fact, I prefer that my name not be mentioned to her at all." Officer Cohen shook his head in disbelief. "Well, all right then. If you're sure you don't want any credit for capturing the thieves, I won't say anything." "You're certain?" "I am," Nancy replied firmly, "for a particular reason of my own." The trooper smiled. "It must be a mighty good one." "There is one favor you might do for me," said Nancy. "As you ask your chief to put in a good word for the caretaker, Jeff Tucker, to the Tophams. Perhaps then he won't lose his job." "Be glad to," Officer Cohen promised. "And if you're really anxious not to figure in the case, I'll see if we can get along without your testimony." Nancy thanked him, then suddenly thought of the old clock. At the moment, it was lying on the front seat of her car, less than a dozen yards away. Should she reveal this information? She decided against doing so in front of the thieves, who, though they could not hear what she had been saying, could see everything plainly. "I'll wait until a more opportune time," Nancy concluded. It was agreed among the state policemen that one of them would stay to guard the van and keep the radio car standing by there. The other 3 troopers would take the captive thieves to headquarters. The 3 prisoners, their faces sullen, were crowded into the car. One of the troopers took the wheel. while the one beside him kept the handcuffed trio closely covered. Officer Cohen, a strapping, husky man, turned to Nancy. "I'll ride with you," he said. "You going past headquarters on the main road?" "I'm on my way to River Heights," she responded. "Then the station is on your route. You can drop me off if you will." Why, of course," Nancy stammered. "I'll be glad to." At once she had thought of the Crowley clock. What if Officer Cohen should not accept her explanation as to why she had helped herself to the heirloom and its strange contents? If this happened, her progress in solving the mystery might receive a serious setback. As these disturbing ideas raced through her mind, the trooper started toward the blue convertible. Nancy braced herself. "I'll just have to fess up," she said to herself, "and I'll take the consequences." And that was the end of chapter 16. We're getting there. You enjoying those Skittles back there? Okay. So, one more thing I would like to tell you guys. I am going to be doing a collaboration with my sister Leanne, and her YouTube channel is Creatively Free to Be Me. If you go to my channel homepage, and you look over to the right, you'll be able to see that I have her channel added on there as like people I know and stuff, or whatever it is. But you can only find that on if you're using a computer. Now, if you're using a mobile phone, I'll just leave the link to her channel down below in the description. And with all that said, I will see you guys in the next video. Do you want to say anything?
Nope.
No? Okay. Like, comment, subscribe, share, suggest things I should do in future videos. And I will see you in the next one. I love you, Dream Chasers.